morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Garage Gym PT. We hope you guys enjoyed Labor Day. We know we did. But Dave and I are back, and we're here to talk to you guys today a little bit more about a topic we kind of figured everyone would enjoy. We've chosen to talk about Marcus Filly's, I don't know if it's his company, his program, but it's Marcus Filly. It's Revival Strength, the functional bodybuilding group they're in, was it San Diego?
I think he's out of the Bay.
The Bay? Okay, that's fine. Couldn't remember. But this one's, I say, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you where he's exactly at, but no, this has a special place next to me. Just in regards to having used the Awakening training series. So I figured this would be a cool one to talk about. Although I don't necessarily agree with his use of the functional bodybuilding, but
I think it's a very good transition from like the high intensity, basically interval training of CrossFit into something that's a little bit, I don't even know what the word is. It's like a step down, or like revival is a good way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem obviously with going balls to the wall for 3, 4, 5 years is you inherently just kind of burn yourself out, and you can possibly like experience some adrenal fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of the response to that, as he was a former like multiple times games athlete.
Yeah, I mean, he does have quite a resume when it comes to fitness and especially CrossFit. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think he did even like grid league stuff, and it was all, once again, how fast, how heavy, and for time.
I didn't know he did grid league. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think he did it kind of like off-season stuff.
Shoot.
If I'm remembering right. Yeah, I guess let's kind of get into what is it, what are kind of like the properties of it, and what's it meant to do.
Yeah, so I guess kind of leading it off, since we've already talked about it, the functional bodybuilding training program really just kind of takes bodybuilding principles and applies it to what they would call like quote unquote functional fitness. I've seen a lot of different things, including there's strength training included in it. There's hypertrophy work, mobility drills. He does have some conditioning in it, but it's not like a huge focus. But kind of like you were already saying, it does kind of bring you into the low level kind of CrossFit type training, but also has a lot more isolation work than you would traditionally see in CrossFit. Trying to think. Then he's also got the Revival. He's got the Revival Strength has an online CrossFit program called Persist. And that's more for like, you want to stay more true to the CrossFit aspect of everything. Not quite so much like the functional bodybuilding. It has a lot more Metcons, but the Metcons aren't designed to crush you. I think hence the name Persist. He's got some good information out there too on like why he programs the way he does. Because I guess he also, like, going through the trials and tribulations of becoming a parent, running a business, he experienced a lot of burnout. And so he basically tried to give himself some form of a way that he can continue doing what he loves without feeling a lot of the aches and pains that kind of came along with the high intensity type training, or the heavy loading that's required for certain sports.
And I said just like overall volume, like having like a CrossFit background, if you want to do anything now, and it seems like even if you want to make it to just quarterfinals, I think that you're starting to train 10 hours plus a week. Wow. Like it really just seems non-optional as far as like that sport's concerned. And I think that this is a really good answer to decreasing your volume, decreasing your intensity, and transitioning probably for better body composition as well.
Yeah, I know he talks about, you want to look good, but at the same time, you want to be able to play with your kids and throw them around like beach balls. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Look good, move well.
Man, exactly. Yeah, I was gonna say, hence his motto: "Look good, move well." He actually also has a podcast, by the way,
And I think
called.
it's actually called that.
Yeah, I was like, that's the name of his podcast. So if you guys want, go ahead and take a look at that as well. It's actually pretty solid. I've listened to a few episodes. He brings on some good guests. It's entertaining. Um, but another program that you would see kind of on the functional bodybuilding website, um, the Awakening Training Series, which I actually have used this and I loved it. Um, so it was kind of an interesting time because I torn my pec and I tried getting back into CrossFit a little bit too quickly after I had my surgery, which was just, oh my gosh, you want to talk about not fun, tear your pec. It is just horrendous. But tried jumping back into the fire a little bit too soon, irritated a few things, didn't like the way I was feeling really just out of it because I couldn't train. I wasn't enjoying my my recovery process very much. A little impatient. Kind of funny because I just gotten out of PT school. Uh, actually, I think I remember venting to you about this specific,
Yeah.
specifically in October. Uh, and I found the Awakening Training Series, and I did a full year of the Awakening Training Series, and I absolutely enjoyed every single day of training just because it made me think about, my movement patterns, what were my mobility restrictions, where was I weak at? Like it was definitely more quality over quantity, but it's still mixed in like nuances of CrossFit that kind of progressed me back into that. Like as I went from like part one all the way through part three, uh, I could feel myself getting back to like the old me, if that makes sense. And I loved it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think he does a good job. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like his outline is typically let's focus on a main lift, and then it's like some accessory work to build around it, and then usually it's kind of more of like a heart rate or like interval based metcon where you're keeping intensity low
Mm-hmm.
and just going for quality of movement rather than AMRAPs or rounds for time or you know a certain amount of calories you want to hit or something like that.
And he actually has examples of these workouts up on his website. If you go to functional dash bodybuilding.com, he actually does have examples of free workouts. If you go to put in your email, he'll send you some different examples. So if you want to check it out for yourself, I highly recommend it because I'm still doing what I love. And I do attribute a lot of that first year out of using the Awakening Training Series. And then after that, a lot of it was just kind of getting back in the swing of things and, going through programming that helped me to where I am now. But
Yeah,
you
and I
just
think
got,
some of the tools that he uses to kind of build position, as I know he's huge on tempo, he's huge on pauses. I'm not sure if he does like rep maxes or any of that type of stuff, but I know that like he's a huge proponent of definitely using tempo, monitoring load, and then he
yeah.
almost like uses the tempo as the way to periodize it rather than just straight up load.
Yeah. He's kind of gotten in. I think he even posted about this on his Instagram. He was talking about how he's gotten away from the 1, the 2, and the 3 rep maxes. And he's almost utilizing more of like a
What,
what's
5 to 8
like
rep max or something.
yeah, like I'll see if I can find it. But I know it was just kind of interesting to see his like shift on this because he's gone from such like a high competitive athlete and being a CrossFit, games athlete for how many times. Um, but yeah, here it is. So like he thinks that like if you're gonna do anything, like he'll do 5 reps, um, more of like a strength central power and raw strength, and he says 15 reps hypertrophy heaven. So it's like I mean, I can understand that though. As you age, sometimes the 1, 2, and 3 rep maxes maybe aren't necessarily going to be great for overall joint health. But at the same time, like if you want to push load, you have to be able to get underneath a 1, 2, and 3 rep max.
Yeah, like obviously you're missing like the neural stimulus there, but I mean it's really not that different from like that 20 rep max squat program. Like once you go like that
Mm-hmm.
heavy or like I guess that long of a set.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I've done anything else besides a 1, 2, or 3 in the last like year or two. Like, I don't think I've done like a 20 rep max for at least a year.
I'm not gonna like build
But
to like an 8 rep heavy on like a variation, but it's usually secondary. And it's much more of like an accessory, but it's not like a primary.
yeah, kind of hits on all cylinders. Then I feel like you're getting a lot of different systems involved with that. Um, oh, here we go. This is a good one. So last but not least, one of the things that I do like about Marcus Filly is how dedicated and how, um, I guess you could say, educational he is on nutrition and like just like lifestyle balancing. Uh, like he's very transparent about what he eats, and he's very transparent about like how he feels when he's not necessarily working out, but also how like as he's going through maybe a particular like change in his training, he puts that out in a blog post. Um, so like when he started having kids, how he said like how his training has shifted. He talked about how he wasn't eating great, how he started to feel because he wasn't eating great. Like there's so many different things that he was just kind of like being very like, honest about, and how like he doesn't want everyone to think that just because he's this high level athlete, like he's immune to these things, but he's not. Um,
Yeah,
but
he
he has
he humanizes himself for sure.
oh yeah, but he's got a
Yeah,
lot of cool things on his website on like recipes, and the Persist Nutrition is up there too. But he always posts like different recipes I always want to try.
yeah, he does a very good job of making his program holistic and actually feasible for like the everyday athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's again like the caveat is kind of somebody who's shifting away from this stuff and is starting to see more of like their career take off, and they need to spend more time elsewhere, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
with kids, family, getting married, etc. And it creates a lesser barrier to feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course, with like some of these sports, such as like even powerlifting, CrossFit, obviously you just keep throwing hours at it, but you're
Mm-hmm.
starting to get towards that 10, 15, 20 hours a week if you truly want to be competitive at it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is kind of like, hey, what can I get done? I have 75 minutes, and how can I maximize it? And I want to say that there's even like other camps, like Ryan Fisher has something that's very similar to functional bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Um, but it focuses and it like shifts your um, primary to moving well, building muscle mass, and basically being resilient to aging.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these guys even shift their cardio stuff, right? From spiking the heart rate to kind of managing your heart rate in that zone 2, zone 3, even like accumulating a bunch of steps on a daily basis as your
Mm-hmm.
primary means of getting your heart health, which
Mm-hmm.
also positively affects your body composition relative to just doing intervals and high intensity and spiking your heart rate super high.
Hmm. It is kind of nice to kind of see that, like, I don't know how you feel sometimes when you don't do a particular workout, or like there are days when like I look at what's programmed and I have no desire to hit a Metcon that's got any kind of like Olympic lifts, or because let's just say the work week has just worn me down, and then I get to that point where like my body is not going to be able to sustain great movement patterns. So I usually will go for more of like a single modality type like conditioning. Like let's say I just want to get on the assault bike and I just want to do intervals there, um, or just going for a walk up a hill, or finding a staircase and just doing that instead, and just kind of setting intervals for it. Um, that is one thing where like I don't know if you feel like bad about that, but sometimes I just feel like maybe I'm missing out on something. But then I think no, like I'm still hitting like what I need to for my heart rate. Um,
I'd say like in the framework of like trying to be a competitive CrossFitter, that is when I would feel bad about it. But for I said like right now,
mhm,
just trying to be strong, maintain health, and then get into the gym about 5 days a week. I'm kind of on board with that because I've increased my work hours, and obviously as like a result, you can't sleep as much. You're
mhm,
burning it kind of at both ends. So this caveat kind of fits my life right now
mhm.
relative to just doing really high intensity stuff.
Yeah.
But you spoke on something that's pretty paramount there, in picking your spots to where you can do intensity.
Hmm.
So everybody's week kind of has this like cyclical rhythm where I would say like you have high stressor days, low stressor days, bad sleep, good sleep, and you kind of want to marry your intensity with those factors and recognizing that like when you can get in your intensity usually mirrors when you get most sleep and you have the least amount of stress placed on you.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's how
I
you
think
get
that's
better
why.
results too.
That's true. I think that's why I liked using the Whoop so much when I had it. Um, it just kind of gave me a little bit more of an insight. But I feel like over the year and a half that I had it, I kind of got better at, the awareness that I had of just like how my sleep affected how I felt, and just how crappy whenever I would drink a little alcohol, I would feel also. Um, but I definitely think that's been like the paradigm shift with my training as of late. Is I'm kind of on the same boat you are, where like I'm focusing on, sustaining muscular performance with weightlifting, but then I'm also incorporating, conditioning in a form that kind of fits what I'm capable of, so that I'm not like, and I probably could even go the opposite way around of doing like conditioning that I need to do, and then the weightlifting that I'm kind of able to fit in. But I feel like it just depends on what your goals are. But I do think maintaining muscle mass is important. Um,
Absolutely.
but it's just odd because like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought about like, I'm not gonna ever be able to like, I shouldn't say I'm not ever going to be able to train at a high intensity. I can still train at a high intensity, just not as often as I would like.
Yeah, your
Um,
frequency has to drop there, and it probably
yeah.
should within any program that you do. But I I agree 100% with what you're saying. Like as you shift your focus, it seems like the things that you need to do more as you get older are
Hmm.
maintain your muscle mass, are maintain like your CNS response, and then you have to do some sort of conditioning to maintain your ability to recover,
Hmm.
as well as support the volume that you're doing. Right. So within the caveat of even using like what we do with the speed work, um, doing intervals that are going to be moderate to high intensity for 15 to 20 minutes is very valuable for recovery getting back under the bar.
Hmm.
Whereas, of course, the sport of CrossFit is all your ability to maintain your intensity. So,
Yeah.
obviously your goals dictate your training style.
Yeah. I agree. I definitely think my training goals have shifted quite a bit over the last 10 years. Uh, Actually, what was scary is earlier when we were out in Baltimore visiting my little brother, um, my mom found some pictures of me when I was playing rugby at UD, and I looked at the year and I was like, "Oh my God, that's 2013. That was 10 years ago. Holy crap!" So it kind of caught me off guard, and just I guess thinking about that now, how I used to train, getting ready to play rugby every year, to now just kind of sustaining and maintaining my overall fitness. It's a big change. I never really, and I went back and looked at some of my old like rugby training programs, just how different the weight training was. Um, just kind of a big eye opener, because I guess I just subtle changes over time, but I didn't really notice like a huge change. But I look back at it now, I'm like, holy crap, it's weird.
Yeah, and I can't really remember anybody who's preaching this type of message,
Hmm.
meaning like train with like specific hypertrophy to avoid injury while still
Hmm.
trying to progress your strength. I cannot think of a guy whose like message that was. Like
Yeah,
it
I don't
seemed to
know.
be very, very camp oriented. Like you just did bodybuilding, you just did powerlifting, you just did high intensity stuff where you were just a triathlete. Like there wasn't too many people who were like trying to marry the programs together to get like a desired outcome.
Yeah, like a jack of all trades. I mean, CrossFit to a degree, but not into the competitive sense.
Yeah, not from like an overall health and like I don't want to call it injury prevention, but um, injury consideration.
Yeah, like a more of a preventative as opposed to a reactive type deal. which it's
Exactly.
kind of a cool paradigm to kind of live by if you think about it. How many how many people do you know are actively in, like, I think there was like a study done by the federal government where it was like only 19% of Americans exercise. Like, we need more of that. I guess it's just kind of odd to think about because, like, I know, like, I think almost all of my friends exercise or do some form of general fitness, like everybody. But I can't think
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah, like looking at my phone and stuff, I think there's not too many people on there that are sedentary people.
no,
Like if I go through
yeah,
my text messages, I mean, a lot of them are my friends because of it.
let's take a look. Yeah, here it is. So data in 2019, right, in the United States, approximately only 23.5% of adults in the United States met both the aerobic and muscle strengthening wait, hold on a minute. Yeah, met both the aerobic and muscle strengthening physical activity guidelines. Wow. Where less than 51.6% met the aerobic activity guidelines. Don't know what those guidelines are, so that might be worth looking into more. But that's pretty sad.
I forget what it was. I think
Jeez and Pete.
Huberman or Galpine was talking about this the other day, and it was something like it may have been as little as like 200 minutes, just kind of doing something in like the lower zones, meaning like walking. So like if you go cut your grass and you're at 60 minutes, you've already gotten the majority of your minutes. Like it's just like it was something that was like extremely low. Or if
Yeah.
you make any effort to go hiking, like you can hit that in a day.
Yeah. Are you talking about like hitting zone 2 cardio?
Meaning like their aerobic threshold was something like zone one, zone two cardio accumulation for 150 to
Mm-hmm.
200 minutes per week.
Yeah. 150 to 200. That's what I think I remember that from this episode.
It was something that was extremely reasonable.
Mhm. Just go for a walk. Although there will be people who will tell you that walking is not a high enough threshold, which I could see that in like an extreme athlete, maybe walking isn't going to be enough to elevate their heart rate. But at the same time, how many people are extreme athletes to the point where walking isn't going to help them?
Yeah,
I think
and
it
of course
will.
it's more from like the body composition paradigm than it is performance.
Hmm. I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, if the walk is what gets you a little bit step further in your fitness goals, why would you not like use that? Uh, I know you actually helped stem me into taking walks at lunchtime. So like there are days sometimes when I have a little bit of extra time and I'm not doing notes, put my headphones in, I put a book on, and I go walk down the bike lane and I come right back. Nice.
Yeah, and there's some other really awesome studies that show like if you do that like after a meal, it like stops your insulin response from being so
Mhm.
high. So then as a result, you feel like you have more energy, you have less fat accumulation. Um, there's tons of reasons to do it.
Yeah. Little family walk, little family time. Why
That's
not?
right.
I don't think Minnie would like that very much. Hmm. No, but I think since we can elaborate a little bit more on this, what would be just some like low level entry points for people to get into exercise? Just because, Marcus Philly sets a pretty good example, with the different things he's utilized with his training shifts. Like, I guess some of the different things that maybe you and I have done over the years, like obviously when we were in PT school, we had that luxury of having time outside of class to go work out besides studying. Uh,
I'd say minus the
gosh,
first year, it was pretty doable.
yeah. But then now that we've kind of gravitated more into the work life balance where you work in the clinic 40 plus hours in a week, um, or work for some aspect of your company, whatever you do for work, um, plus having to maintain a family and take care of the dogs. You know, there's a lot of different things that kind of go into, you know, a whole life. But uh, there are ways. So like, I guess my what I'm leading into here is what would be just some low hanging fruit or some low entry points for people to kind of maintain an active lifestyle, or maybe what you've done to maintain. Like, what steps have you taken to keep that as a part of your life?
I mean, my lowest barrier to entry is like having a garage gym so that there's never an
Mm-hmm.
excuse to not have it in my life.
Mm-hmm.
As like I'm sure you do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously like my general goals are a little bit different and higher than most people, I'd say our age. That like I kind of have the expectation of a minimum of 4.5 to 5 times a week I'm out there.
Mm-hmm.
In particular with strength training. I think people do three is kind of like your minimum
Mm-hmm.
entry, maybe two whole body days.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, like I said, I almost kind of like have like a active eye on like the clock, and I'm like, well, what can I get done within 75 minutes? And it's usually some version of like a main lift, and then I'll pick like two supersets of accessory work that kind of bolster that main lift, and then usually it's 20 minutes of conditioning unless I have something to do like cut the grass, in which case that kind of serves as like my accumulation of cardiovascular that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I
then
would say I'm pretty similar.
yeah, it seems maintainable um for what I want right now. And it's a positive. Like I don't feel really beaten up.
Mm-hmm.
Um I don't feel like it's not sustainable. I mean, obviously like there's some adjustments that you're gonna have to make in your life to make it a priority, but it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
Like I even have a patient who I like a lot. He runs conjugate and he just does um 2 days upper, 2 days lower, and then he just tries to accumulate 10 to 15,000 steps a day. And he's in his 40s and he is killing it.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest things you can do is just kind of get a schedule down, get like your time management. Uh,
Yeah, let's make
I
it
know we
non-negotiable.
exactly. It's if you're not going to put it down on your calendar as a priority, then it's never going to be a priority. I think that's one of the things that I've kind of, because it used to just be like a natural habit for me where like I would always just work out. I would go to the gym. I would just like if I didn't go, it was just an odd day. And now it's like now that I have so many other different things and responsibilities going on, especially the fact that now like I'm traveling for work, um, like making sure that like wherever I'm staying or wherever I'm going to has a gym available, or I have a CrossFit gym really close by that I can go to and drop in at. Um, so like I'm trying to make that a priority, even when I have um, maybe a little bit more of a full schedule than I would like. Even if it's just 20 minutes, it doesn't even have to be an hour. That's what I think people have to understand too, is like you might not have a full hour to dedicate to working out, but if you have 10, 15 minutes and you can get a little bit of work in, it's still going to put you a step ahead.
Yeah, and think of it as just like it's a dividend in the future, right? So like a
Exactly.
60-year-old that can like move well, get off the couch, still have vitality in their life is they're an outlier.
Mm-hmm.
But like guys, you just figure out what you have to do and how you can like progress this, right? And a lot of it will align with like your lifestyle and what you prioritize, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
if you schedule in a workout at 4:30, don't let anything deviate from it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're making yourself accessible to like sales calls and like all this other stuff within that time frame, then it's a recipe for failure.
Mm-hmm.
Now look, like kids are a completely different thing. Like I'm not gonna say that they're not because it's a living being that is reliant on you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can set your phone on silent. That call will be there.
Mm-hmm.
Like take that time for you, and it's one of the more positive stressors or outlets for stress that you can actually like have.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good point. I think getting away from a phone sometimes is hard for people. Uh, I like right now, I have my focuses that I like to use. I was not even remotely aware that focuses were a thing on phones until Alex Trotter showed me. I felt old. I felt really old, but
I'm
I
actually not
started.
even sure what that is.
Yeah, they're actually pretty nifty. You can, it's like right now I have a focus going on for podcast recording. So the only person that can get to me is my wife. Funny enough, she already got to me.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Yeah. Well, I like them. I enjoy them. I got it for a lot of different tasks that I need to get done, and only certain people can get a hold of me. So it's nice.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all.
Nah. But anything else you want to add on today's topic, Dave?
Not really. I think it's just more of like a guys, there's a natural shift away from intensity as like your life actually gets more intense. So then you're not going to be able to, I don't want to say, like, you'll still be able to do the things that you could do. It's just with like less frequency, and you really have to pick your spots and like tailor your recovery around it.
Mm-hmm.
Just that's the way it goes. Um, of course, unless like you have a life that's just like picture perfect and you work 20 hours a week or whatever. But for most of us, that's not reality.
No. No. But yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed our review today on Marcus Filly and his I guess programs in his company, Revival Strength, Functional Bodybuilding. But we will see you guys in the next episode.